Welcome to the second edition of the Ruck Rugby podcast with myself, Mark Moss.
And Sam Leamy.
This week's episode comes from subscriber Ethan Kelsall, who asks, what's your boys starting Lions 15 for South Africa?
If you want to leave us a comment down below of something to ask us, then please leave a comment down on YouTube. We had a few last week, which is brilliant. Tweet us at Ruck Rugby Pod or Instagram us at Ruck Rugby.
And please like, share and subscribe.
So episode 2, we're going to look at a Lions team to beat South Africa. The Lions are touring next year, next summer, 2021, travelling to a hostile South Africa. Incredibly interesting series against New Zealand a few years back, which is incredibly interesting to watch. So South Africa, we know that they're a hugely dominant set piece side, the big brutes, aren't they, Mark?
They are big boys.
They're quite young, obviously coming back off a hugely successful World Cup campaign. They've got an extremely interesting coach in Rassie Erasmus, who's come through and changed a few things. Again, he's been quite vocal on the Twitter, and I've seen some of his sort of coaching and motivational and science behind his coaching, which has been incredibly interesting to watch. I think, they're a relatively young squad. They've got some fantastic talent that can only get better. It's going to be extremely interesting to see how a Lions team shapes up in a hostile environment in South Africa.
Yeah, early predictions, Sam. What do you think?
I think we've tried to pick we're going to pick a team in a second. I'd back us, to be honest. I think obviously it's always a question after a team having the highest honour of winning the World Cup, how they perform after that. It's usually the case where they've won the best of the best. It's very hard for a team to maintain performances after that. So if there's a time to have a good series win, then it's optimal time. You saw England 2003 World Cup, even a few examples of a team reaching their peak and tailing off afterwards.
Yeah, I think right now England are just getting better and better. I think that's going to be the key over the next year, that they will become very, very good. Again, Wales are pushing through some really talented players, so are Ireland, so are Scotland. So I think it's going to be a really interesting tour. So to start with, look at the Loosehead Prop, number 1. 2 absolutely world-class players that we have in the British Isles, but it's just a quick case of if they can stay fit. And to me, if either one of these two can stay fit, the jersey's going to belong to one of theirs. What's your thoughts, Sam?
Yeah, like you said, both world-class players, aren't they? They're, I'm not the person to ask about scrummaging, but I know they do an absolute job, both of them, whether that be they're starting or coming off the bench, both of them. That's probably the same case for the other side of the scrum as well. We talk about our other props. I think, Mako, he's just solid, isn't he? He does the work, he carries hard. I know there's not a lot you can say about a prop, but it'd be interesting contest between these two.
Spoke like a typical back. There's not much you can say about a prop. Wow. Yeah, not making many friends in the front row, you Sam.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll try and stay a bit unbiased. But
yeah, I think for me, I think Mako Vunipola just brings a whole different dynamic. I think props nowadays are becoming a lot more influential in the game as a whole, not just at the set piece. Mako's scrummaging is great, so is Cian Healy's, and they've both got ball carrying skills, and both will take the ball to the line and distribute as well. They can both pass. To me, I don't think Cian Healy's going to stay fit. It's such a shame for somebody with that much talent to waste a lot of it on being injured. And Mako Vunipola is world class. He's proved it before in the Lions and the England shirt. He's had a few major injury. Well, not really. Obviously, he's been injured, but he's had the major operations that he needed to have his niggles sorted out. So I think in 2021, he will be the starting Loosehead prop for the Lions. What about you, Sam?
I think, like you said, we've said it. You see their names on the team sheet, and they're world class, aren't they? They're again the top 2. There's no real other competition in this position. It's kind of like two types of props, isn't it? There's props that, like, I don't know, like a Genge who comes on as like real powerful, but like Mako just is like one level, isn't he? And he's just consistent in his carrying, in his tackling. He stays in the defensive line, like doesn't make too many errors. But yeah, no, I'd agree. I think Mako wins it over Cian Healy.
Fantastic. So Mako's our starting Loosehead prop. Now on to hooker. A lot of choice for me. A lot of choice. Obviously, you've got the two England boys at the minute. Jamie George, who's done it with the Lions before. Luke Cowan-Dickey, who's coming up. You've got Ken Owens and Ronan Kelleher, obviously coming through Leinster at the minute. Leinster are producing some ridiculously talented youngsters. If he can push his way through the Irish squad for the next Six Nations, I think he can have a massive impact. Gatland's proven before that he doesn't mind taking a hooker that has less international experience. So when he first started playing Jamie George, he wasn't England's starter. I think he's got a chance. Who's your initial thought on this, Sam?
Yeah, I think Jamie George is by far the most skillful out of these four we've picked. I think Ken Owens is, again, I think they call him the sheriff, don't they? Don't know why. He performs well in that Welsh squad, doesn't he? Cowan-Dickey, again, another one coming through, but I think Jamie George, unquestionably, is consistent all around game. He's carrying, his passing. You see him do tips and pull out the back just like a backward. So now he's extremely impressive, and his set pieces, arrows are fantastic as well, aren't they?
I do think his form's dropped off in the last year. Like prior to the World Cup, I don't think he went in that fire in Six Nations again. And Cowan-Dickey's starting to make an impact again. You're looking at, if you look back to both these teams at under-20s, both England and South Africa there, Cowan-Dickey was a standout, and there's been some fantastic players coming through that under-20s World Cup that are really hitting the peak right now. Cowan-Dickey's probably not hitting his peak, but he does bring a whole different dynamic to the game. He's a much more dynamic hooker than the rest of them. Obviously, Jamie George's skills are brilliant. I just think that.
Do you think he carries better than George? Do you think he sort of gets around the park a little bit better?
Yeah, definitely. I think he gets around the park better, 100%. Whether he carries better, I don't quite know. I don't think he's as physical as Jamie George, but I think he hits gaps better than him. So I think he attacks around the player rather than through the player a bit more like George. But yeah, he's. I think there's four strong contenders here. Kelleher right now probably hasn't got the international experience or hasn't really got the full rugby experience yet to get in the Lions squad, but we'll soon see after the Six Nations next year. I think he will come through, and I can see him making the squad, and I think it will be at expense of one of these guys. Ken Owens is just solid. Set piece is brilliant. Directs those rolling mauls. Amazing. And it's a big part of Gatland's plans when he was at Wales. So whether he's going to be that in the Lions plans as well. I think you're strongly struck on Jamie George, and I would not be disagreeing with you, really. I do think Jamie George is going to be the starting Lions hooker. Yeah. But it could be any four of these men, and
all pushing on there, especially Cowan-Dickey, almost second fiddle at England. I think he's chomping at the heels, which is good and good competition, and I'm sure we'll see him flourishing and pushing through very soon.
So, number 2, Jamie George. Tighthead Prop, 2 big high-profile players here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Furlong, I think Sinclair's definitely a more fiery player. We saw that a couple of years ago, Six Nations, where he kind of lost it for England, didn't he? I think everyone remembers that, getting a card against, was it France? I think Sinclair's a much fiery player. I think, spoke about 2 levels. I think Furlong's maybe a bit more consistent, in my eyes anyway. I think Sinclair, it is a tough one, I think, between these two, but I think Furlong, I just think he's a little bit more consistent around the park. Again, both world-class scrummagers. And the set piece is very strong. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Tyke Furlong's got a better set piece. I think he's more consistent in the set piece. Sinclair's nearly there, very, very close to being there. Sinclair probably has a better hands game than we've seen with England in the World Cup. Obviously, prior to the final where he got knocked out, he dominated against New Zealand. He was probably the reason England got off the quick start, because they're using the ball distributor as well as a wrecking ball, which is a prop. Jesus, it's getting scary rugby when props are doing what these guys are doing. Furlong, massively strong, big farmer. Wexford boy, just typical big Irish prop. But he's got the hands, he's got the strength, and he's got the intelligence to do things. Right now, I'm leaning towards Furlong, and I think you are as well, just for that a little bit more experience. Agreed. I think he's got a little bit more experience than what Sinclair has. Just that more consistent experience. I think potentially Singlet has a better final product than what Furlong would, but I think he hits the high level more consistently. Yeah, so Tighthead Prop is Tyke Furlong. Second row, there are some absolutely world-class second rows across all nations. Johnny Gray, obviously, Scotland. England have an absolute wealth in Cruz, Itoje, Launchbury, Ludlam, then Laws as well, yeah. Wales, the man that just keeps defying time in Alan Wynne-Jones is, you just think every time he plays, it's going to be, he's not going to be able to carry on after this. Like, this is going to be his last big tournament, and he just keeps going and keeps being one of the best players at those tournaments. And then James Ryan, something special as well for Ireland, just a quality individual. But Neil and Ian Henderson as well for Ireland, again, those second rows. So there's a massively talented pool of second rows here, but really you got these three that are just head and shoulders above everybody else. For me, do you think Alan Wynne-Jones is still going to be at that level in the summer of 2021?
I was going to ask you the same thing. He is the gift that keeps giving, isn't he? He's been
He is
at the top of his game for a long time now, and you look at him and he looks a bit scraggly, and he looks
he's like a fine French red wine. He just keeps getting better and better with age. You saw him in this year's Six Nations where he's getting bashed, and you think, oh no, he's hurt big time. He's going to have to go off, and this is going to be the end of his career, because he's nearing it. But he continues, and he plays 80 minutes. And that sort of leadership and experience, I think you definitely need that while wearing a Lions jersey. And Gatland trusts him. I just don't think you can have a Lions team at the minute without Alan Wynne-Jones.
I think that the question's definitely there, isn't it? Will he make it? And he doesn't seem to really have those dips in form, does he? He's at the age where he's incredibly experienced. He knows what he's got to do. He's got to do. He's niggly at the same time. I think James Ryan is an incredibly young player. I've enjoyed watching him in the Six Nations, and he's had a fair few caps for Ireland now. He's only 23, so I think he's still got to be blooded at the international level to a further extent. So the question over him is, taking him to a hostile South Africa, I think it'd be incredible for his career, but will Gatland put him in in that frame? I think Itoje, he's just all round game. He's a bit of a man mountain, isn't he? And he's effective in everything he does in defence and attack, and a fantastic line-out option as well. I think he runs that pretty well for England on the international stage.
I agree. Just going back to Alan Wynne-Jones, to have that experience of winning on a Lions tour and obviously drawing against New Zealand on a Lions tour, for me, he's in. He's got his shirt already. When you want somebody to influence a referee in those situations, I think he's going to do it. Again, Itoje's leadership's there as well. But I think if you stick any of the names that were mentioned so far next to Alan Wynne-Jones, are going to be massively successful. As a fly half, what's your initial thoughts out of those two, out of Itoje and James Ryan?
Well, I think when I was initially thinking about it, I don't know, I'm sceptical about Alan Wynne-Jones' longevity. I don't know how old he is, but you just question it. I think James Ryan, he'll have another half a year potential international caps on his belt. Stick him in there. He's performed well from Ireland. He's shown he can compete with the big boys. He's a huge man like Itoje. He's young, but he's proper keen, and I do put confidence in him to front up to the big South African pack.
Very interesting. I think it was an interesting stat with Itoje about his influence in the game, that how often he influenced the turnover with a tackle or with a turnover himself. I don't think you can leave Itoje out of any squad in the world. I think he's an absolute world-class second row. And I think we're going to name a relatively young pack. I think having looked at looked at a few guys that we've both talked about in the back row, I think that we need Alan Wynne-Jones' leadership in there, really, mate. He is 34, but 35 next summer.
No, I reckon he will. He's durable as well. You know, how often do you see him injured?
No, like I said, he gets hurt a lot, and he just goes and goes and goes. I don't think he can fit. I don't think he can hit all 3 tests. I don't think he's going to have that ability. But I think as a starting in test number 1 and test number 3, when we're really going to need him, I can't see him not being the team.
Itoje and Alan Wynne-Jones.
Itoje and Alan Wynne-Jones in the second row. Number 6, Blindside Flanker. We as 4 nations have some ridiculously talented back rows right now. Peter O'Mahony, obviously, just some of the performances he's put in for Ireland when he hits that peak, it's amazing. You see what he did for Ireland against New Zealand. Josh Navidi, who, aside from being injured a bit this Six Nations, last Six Nations he was unbelievable. Ross Moriarty, Sean's on the last lines told when he got brought in that work rate, power, speed, everything. And Tom Curry, what can you say about his performance for England for the last year? Nominated for World Player of the Year. He is World Rugby's Young Player of the Year. This is a really big decision.
It is some talented players on this screen. I think Navidi's an absolute force to be reckoned with. I think, like you said, he hasn't really hit form in the Six Nations, but he did in the World Cup. A player who's come on and given his shot at the international stage. Moriarty, absolute class outfit, natural ability and natural athlete for the size of the man. I think Curry is still finding himself. I think again, put at 8, it's not really. Again, there was a lot of controversy around Eddie Jones picking him there. I think O'Mahony is the standout for me. I think with his experience, he's been on 2 or 3 lines. I think two lines tours previous to this. He's an experienced leader, and just he does it for me. Does it for me for Ireland. So that would be my sort of feeling.
But is he getting on? Is my question again. That like we discussed about Alan Wynne-Jones, Peter O'Mahony's getting on, and Tom Curry's proven for England that he's won games. You look at him and Underhill. I think one of those two is going to be in. And whether Underhill's going to fit the 7 shirt, I think it's going to be a choice of either Tom Curry or Sam Underhill. As one, I don't think they're both going to get in. Big decision.
I think you got to weigh up, the experience and the impacts the players have on the game. I think Curry, Navidi, and Moriarty are all big players in the game, aren't they? They have some real high quality impacts on the game, i.e. line breaks or some huge shots, for example. O'Mahony's more, is on that sort of more consistent level throughout, I feel. But
again, with his leadership coming through, his previous lines experience down in. Yeah, okay, I will. I'll concede him. We'll put Peter O'Mahony in at 6. 7 again, another few massive decisions. You've got 2 young players in Hamish Watson and Sam Underhill that have been tearing it up on the international and club stage, and you have Justin Tipperick, who is possibly one of the most underrated Welsh players in the last few years. You look at Warburton being the 7 and Tipperick being the 6. He was always the understudy, and I think the understudy's now become the master. His influence in the game's huge. That man wins games. What's your thoughts on these 3?
Tipperick, again, like I said, you summarised it extremely well. He's hugely underrated for the past 7 years in that Welsh squad. I think you definitely got to look at the opposition. I think South Africa, we know they're not the quickest of sides, so therefore, do you potentially look at a more of an Underhill style of player rather than Tipperick, who's maybe a bit better in the loose, where Underhill. You know, watching Underhill in that Six Nations, just the way he carried, and he's bumping boys off, and you know, when he gets on a rampage, he's unstoppable, isn't he? He's incredibly effective carrier. Again, he's a little bit injury prone, so that's maybe, I hope he's fit, because he's definitely a huge contender for this shirt. Hamish Watson, again, an experienced player, but I don't think he has the impacts on the game that potentially Underhill or Tipperick has. So for me, I think my feeling is Underhill, just going a little bit, not as good in the loose, but just an absolute brute, and I think will be able to be, you know, as fierce and to compete with the South African pack.
I think you did Hamish Watson a bit of a disservice there. I think he's just been unbelievable for Scotland. His tackle count's ridiculously high. His carry is ridiculously high. He's quick. He's the best player in that Scottish pack by an absolute country mile, and there's no question about it. Even looking at Jamie Ritchie in there, who is a fantastic player in his own right, but doesn't even enter this conversation.
Well, I did like Jamie Ritchie. I was going to mention him just after you were saying. I think, especially in that World Cup, you know, in Japan against Japan, he had an absolute storm of the game. Again, a young player coming through. Yeah, maybe Watson just tips him, but I think Jamie Ritchie is definitely a player to watch. I really like watching him.
Yeah, but I think, as we're previously talking about with Tom Curry, I think Underhill's going to have to be in there.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I think one of those two's got to be in. The work they go through, the impact they have on the game. Underhill's possibly not had the plaudits that Tom Curry's had. He's been a little bit more understated, but a little bit older, a little bit more experience, and that probably had a little bit more pace. And I don't think South Africa will be able to live with him. So I'd agree. Openside Flanker, Sam Underhill. 8. What can you say? There's one man, if he stays fit, that's going to make the 8 shirt his own.
Yep.
Billy Vunipola is a world class number 8. He would go into any team in the world at any point, because he's big, he's quick, he's intelligent, and again, we'll say he's big.
Big Billy. Yeah, no, I'd agree. He's an absolute. He's a boss, isn't he? When he's at 8, you know, just from the base of the scrum, you know, he's going to pick and draw players in. He's hard to stop in his carries, and you know, he's got a sleight of hand as well. You know, his offloading game is super strong, and like you said, no one really competes with him when he's fit. He just gains momentum, and there was only one pick for
he's
this.
Been
really
so unlucky with the injuries as well. Every time he's gonna hit the injured just before Japan, he missed out on the last Lions tour after being injured for Saris, wasn't it? Broke his arm, I think. It'll be his first appearance on a line shirt, and what a line he's going to be.
Any omissions from 8, or not really? Not really anyone to mention, really.
I think you can mention the likes of CJ Stander.
Stander, yeah, he probably won't get on the tour, won't he?
A big squad. He could get on there. And you can talk about Talupe Falatau again, who's done it for the Lions. He's been there, done that, but they're no Billy. However, Scrum Half is going to be a massive debate, I think.
Onto the backs. This is what I've been waiting for.
On the back, on these pretty boys. Right now, in my opinion, there is only one Scrum Half with massive experience that has been classed as world class throughout his whole career, in Conor Murray, but I don't know whether he's there at the minute. Reece Webb, obviously, he's been there, but we have some really, really, really good Scrum Halves coming through. You're looking at Cooney, you're looking at Gareth Davis and Thomas Williams. 3 massively young players coming through, and it's going to be up for debate here between us two now of is Murray's experience going to be enough to carry him into a starting place, or are we going to go for the Lions' experience in Webb, or are we going to go for one of the young boys? What's your thoughts?
Cooney, an incredibly impressive player. Again, he's stuck behind Murray in that Irish squad, so his game time's been somewhat limited. I think again, Conor Murray is struggling for form at the moment, and like Webb, both two top players. I think Murray's potentially got the best box kicking game out of these picks here. I think Webb's quicker to the breakdown. I think his service is potentially a little bit better, so that maybe gives him a point of difference. But I really like Davies as well. I think he's electric off the base, and potentially actually Davies has got that. I think the best all-round game on here actually would be my view. But I think I'm leaning towards Murray, even though he's a little bit out of form at the moment. I think I prefer him over Webb.
I prefer him over Webb, but for me, I'm looking at the three young guys. Out of all those three, I'd probably pick them over both those guys right now. Obviously, Conor Murray's got the box game to compete against de Klerk. He's got that bit more experience on the international stage and in the Lions jersey, but you've got three players on the left-hand side of your screen there that are going to light the world on fire. Put them in a red Lions jersey, and I think it could be something a little bit special. To me, I don't think Thomas Williams is there yet. He's very, very close. I'd be happy with either Cooney or Davis. Mind you, I'd be happy with Murray.
Let's go Davis then. I think Davis is just his all-round game. I think it just tops it. I think obviously Cooney's got his goal kicking, but we're not going to need that because potentially we've got other goal kickers in the team. I think he's got a very strong boxing game, but I think all round, I think if we think Murray's a little bit out of form and just off the pace a little bit, let's give it to Davies. Why not? Yeah.
Okay, so number 9, Gareth Davies. FlyHalf, another massive debate here. Obviously, going back on our last video, that all three of these got into our top 10 FlyHalfs in the world. It's going to be a big debate with Owen Farrell, where he's going to be best for the Lions at 10 or 12. And I think that's the first debate we have to have, because Owen Farrell is the best FlyHalf on this list out of these three, without a shadow of a doubt. He's the best player, in my opinion. I think you're the same. So the first debate we have to have is Owen Farrell going to be in the 10 or the 12 shirt?
Tricky decision. I agree. He's the best player on this pick. I think Bigger has obviously got a few points of differences, his aerial game, and I think he does a job, doesn't he? He's slow and steady. He puts his kicks up. Tremendous goal kicker. But yeah, it's whether we see Farrell as he's the best FlyHalf, but is he also incredibly effective at 10 and potentially putting Bigger in there? I think that's potentially my thinking, but I'm open to be swayed by you, Mark.
So your opinion is to put Bigger at 10 and Farrell at 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Again, Bigger's getting on. We're talking about that age, and is a Bigger Farrell relationship going to work between 10 and 12 with two pretty big egos that both can sulk? And if one loses out on that and they both clash, I think there's going to be a big cause for concern there. I think Farrell and Ford works because Farrell and Ford have a brilliant relationship. Whether Farrell and Bigger are going to have that same relationship, or Russell and Farrell are going to have that same relationship, I don't know.
No, I think, yeah, you raise a good point. I think you look at Sexton in the second and third tests, where I think Sexton and Farrell played 10 and 12. I think it worked for them because Sexton's very much up and down. I think Sexton loves to take the ball to the line. That's where he gets hit so late often. And I think Farrell playing that sort of out the back, arching, it worked quite well. But I don't think Bigger is that kind of player. So, yeah, no, you have swayed me there, Mark. I think if there's best 10 on the field out of these three, it's going to be Farrell, isn't it?
So Owen Farrell's going to be our 10. Let's just mention Finn Russell quickly. I think he's got the potential getting into the team, but he needs to play for Scotland. Needs to play for Scotland over the next few internationals and over the next Six Nations. He needs to play for Scotland. If he can do that, there is a chance of pushing him across, Farrell across. But for me, even Finn Russell coming off the bench here to if we need an extra 10 points in the last 20 minutes, might be the man to unlock a defence. But yeah, I agree. Farrell at 10.
It's almost a completely different topic, almost podcast, isn't it? If we talk about people and players we want to come off the bench, who do you want coming on to light it up? Bigger or Russell? It's going to be Russell, isn't it? He can create. His creativity is next level, and potentially the best in the world, can make things happen himself or other players. It is a different topic, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but if we look at again when he got missed out of our top 10 fly halves, but Sexton's not there, who's done it for the Lions twice now. He's just past his peak, isn't he, for us? He's a brilliant player, and he deserves his own right to be up where he is right now. But these three are just a bit better, in my opinion, right now.
Agreed.
Cool. Left wing. Pacemen. 1, 2, 3 of them. You got Johnny May, scores, tries for fun. Same with Stockdale, and same with Adams as well. I'd be happy with any of them.
Yeah, I agree. I really like Adams. I think he's come on tremendously. Playing for Worcester is quite a cool story. I think they did ITV did a piece on him before this year's Six Nations, to see him come through, playing club rugby and coming through. He's a great finisher. I don't think he's quite the beast that Stockdale and May are. Stockdale, he's a bit of a freak, isn't he? Some of his chip kicks and some of his finishes have been class over the years. But May, you talk about most improved players. I remember watching him when he first came on. He's running across the side of the pitch. Didn't really have a clue in defence or whatever. And he does light up. I think he's the fastest, just about the fastest man in world rugby. Constantly performs. He's chases everything. And I suppose it's just a question of, would you rather a larger unit in Stockdale potentially than a out and out speedster in May?
We have 3 prolific try scorers that score tries for fun for their club and for the country. I don't know whether it's English bias, and I think there's going to be a few calls for that across this whole video. But my English bias goes towards Johnny May. I
do like Stockdale. I think Eddie Jones talks about having sort of an out and out speedster and then a bit more of a technical stepper, doesn't he? And I quite like that idea of having that option on the field.
I agree with you, mate. That's exactly what I'd be going for if I was picking a top class international team. Left wing, obviously, off your good hand, out and out speedster, which this is what we're picking. Stockdale's probably got a bit more than just an out and out speedster, but this is what we're picking right now. Who are you thinking?
Let's go May. Out and out speedster. We've got a few more options on the other wing, haven't we, to still discuss? He just that try against New Zealand in 2014 when it was, where he got that pass off Farrell and just burn Smith around the corner. Like, that just sums it up, doesn't it? He can just arc around everybody. He doesn't even need to step. Let's stick him in there.
I agree, mate.
I think Stockdale is incredible. He's a high class performer. He'll still get on the tour. I reckon. I think we're a bit biased, maybe the English blood in this.
There is potential for that, but I do think that picking May is the best option. Inside centre, obviously we've already discussed Farrell at inside centre. We've put him as our 10, so we now have to look at 3 very big boys in Hadley Parkes, Bundyaki and Manu Tuolangi. Thoughts? You're playing 10 for the Lions, mate. Who would you want as your 12?
Yeah, I think Hadley Parkes is actually an extremely good operator on the field. I think he steadies the ship with Bigger incredibly well, actually. He might not be the flashiest players. He's a little bit maybe basic, but he does everything a centre needs to do. He carries when he needs to. He can distribute. Look at the other 2 on there. Obviously, Farrell's out of the picture. Tuolangi, Aki, sort of bigger units on the field. I think with Tuolangi, obviously he's had his injury concerns, but I think you've got to construct a team not around him, but I think you really have to tap into him to get the best out of him. I think England have done it incredibly well, using him as a blocking line or whatever they shoot him up and the space creates elsewhere. So it's a good question to see whether you want to go for a more classic Hadley Parkes or a Tuolangi, and then a bit of more of a dynamic 13.
Yeah, Bundyaki, I think, is just slightly out of one for me. I do think it'd be between Parks and Tuolangi. What Tuolangi brings to your game, and we talk about a big South African outfit. I mean, neither of those two men are small, but Tuolangi can puncture South Africa.
Yeah.
And how many people can you say can outpower and puncture South Africa? So yeah, are you going towards Tuolangi as well?
I think so. I think you've got to go for a big ball runner. I think, yeah, it's an interesting one whether you go 12 or 13. I think you want him there. He's not going to steady the ship like Parks does, but Tuolangi, he can just cause absolute carnage. Whether that be if he gets the ball, or if he doesn't, it doesn't matter because he's going to attract players.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting debate. Having him at 12 or 13. I think he's been pushed more into a 12. I would have gone 13. Throughout a bit more of his career for England, but I think with him at 12, yeah, I think that's what's going to work for us here. So inside centre, Manu Tuolangi. Outside centre, some ridiculous options. Jonathan Davis has done it again for the Lions. So a bit like the Alan Wynne-Jones scenario, that he's been there, he's done that, he's got the leadership, but he's still got the skills. Gary Ringrose, who prior to this Six Nations, obviously with being out injured, he's been something special. Henry Slade has the potential to be the best player on the pitch every time he's on there for England. And Robbie Henshaw, whose Six Nations was pretty unbelievable for an Irish team that didn't really perform.
Yeah, I really like Henshaw. I think he adds a lot to whenever he plays. Previous learn is tourist, so he's got a bit of experience in there. He's quite powerful, and he was definitely up there when I was thinking of my 13. Ringrose, again, bit of a freak, kind of like Stockdale in that Irish squad. Got crazy skills, can pass, kick, run, and he's incredibly dynamic. I think Jonathan Davis, again, he's a bit of a legend, isn't he? He's influenced a lot of Lions tours and been incredibly successful in the Wales team. I think for me, I want a bit more dynamic 13. I think Jonathan Davies just slipping off there for me. Slade isn't quite there. So for me, I think I do like Henshaw. I think, again, like you said, Slade is still getting there. I think, one of the Six Nations games where he came on could have got man of the match. He had some fantastic influences on the game. Can read the game. He's played 10, 12, 13, 15 for Exeter and age grade stuff. So he's incredibly talented and sticking with that England squad, hopefully he gets a chance. I think he's nailed on that at his position at 13 now. So yeah, I'm pushing for Henshaw.
My initial thought wasn't Henshaw, but listening to what you're saying about him and looking at who we've got inside centre at Tuolangi, who can play 13, Henshaw can play 12. It's something that it adds a different dynamic. You can swap those two around, different thoughts, different pictures. That like when you're training, you talk about putting a picture in the defence's head. What picture can the Lions show with those two on the pitch? So many different options, so many different lines of deception, and I'll agree with you. 13, Robbie Henshaw. So we've talked about our out-and-out speeds to the wing. We're looking at a little bit more skill on this right wing for us. George North, again, we talked about somebody that's been there, done that against Australia, was the player of the tour. You've got that image of him there.
Iconic in that isn't it?
Just absolutely iconic. You got him there pointing at, was it Genya?
Yeah.
That he was pointing at.
I think he said after that he didn't. I think he was so excited, or there was an interview afterwards. He was so excited. I think he actually apologized to Genya because he was like it just happened. It's one of those things. It looks arrogant.
Yeah,
but
you got two iconic pictures of that tour. You got that, and then you got him lifting up Folau, and really the less said about Folau, the better, isn't there?
Yeah.
Again, you've got another two tourists in Watson who toured up in New Zealand. Elliot Daly, who has so many different threats. It's not even funny.
I think all three are guaranteed tourists at the end of the day. I think you got Daly, who can cover multiple positions, so he's an incredibly attractive player to bring on a tour. he's got his fantastic long range goal kicking, which again is hugely attractive for any team to pick him. Watson is
particularly playing against South Africa as well, Sam. We're looking at a team in South Africa who their whole ethos throughout the professional era has been keep the scoreboard ticking over. So you see a lot of drop kicks, you see a lot of penalties by them, where a lot of teams will potentially go for the corner or continue to play. If they don't see the points, they'll just tick it over, tick it over, tick it over. With Daly, you got halfway line penalty. Most teams have to kick for the corner. Daly goes and slots it, especially in the thin South African air when they're playing up at altitude. You've potentially got a 60-metre kicker.
Yeah, it's a great point. Hugely attractive. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if that makes him sort of as attractive compared to his out-and-out winger skill. I think, England have tried to squeeze him in the team, haven't they? You look at those other two. Watson, he's a bit of a freak, isn't he? His footwork's absolutely fantastic. He's an absolute speedster. Again, different from May, where he doesn't really swerve. He can just step people for fun. Don't know if anyone's seen his highlights from under 18s England on YouTube, but he's just been tearing up since day one.
I think you made a really interesting point there about Daly, that England have tried to squeeze him in. I think that's a really interesting point that you've made, because England's wingers have been so good. And you're looking at Watson being world-class, Johnny May being world-class, and you're looking to squeeze him in. They've had to put him at 15, which is not his natural position. For me, Anthony Watson's too good to leave out. You saw him when he came back from injury for England in the Six Nations, scores with his first touch.
No, I agree. I think North, we haven't really spoken too much about him. He's sort of had his limelight again. Still a pretty young bloke. Can he do the stuff that Watson can do? Maybe not. I just think Watson's electric, and like you said, you can't leave him out, I don't think.
So Anthony Watson at 14, now to 15, two world-class players.
Hogg and Williams for people listening on the podcast and can't see the YouTube stuff. I think me personally, I think Hogg is incredibly skillful. Love his spiral kicks. And that he might have a bit of a stronger kicking game, but Williams is just his all-round ability, Mr. Bendy Legs, his all-around ability to break lines, create stuff. He's unreal in the air. He does it for me for 15. I think Hogg, defensively, I don't think he's as good and his ability as Williams. I think maybe Williams has got a bit more pace as well. But yeah, I'd stick Williams in there.
I like Hogg better than I like Williams, but I think the deciding factor is going to be Faf de Klerk for South Africa. He's going to be kicking. Pollard's going to be kicking. They're going to be putting high balls up. Who do you want under that high ball in World Rugby? You want Leah Williams. I think Hogg is undoubtedly one of the most electric attacking players in World Rugby. Williams is also class, but the high ball is going to be key in South Africa with those big kicks going up in that thin South African air. Liam Williams is going to have to take the 15 shirt.
I agree. I think Williams has played a lot on the wing for Sarries, which again, you don't see Hogg playing on the wing. And like I said, Hogg's got that out and out 15 kicking ability, but Williams, you want him in the air and you want him breaking lines. If you want, Farrell's going to be there for kicking duties and pinning corners. So now we'll go Williams.
Williams, fantastic. So our line squad to beat South Africa is Mako Vunipola, Jamie George, Tyke Furlong, Maro Itoje, Alan Wynne-Jones, Peter Imani, Sam Underhill, and Billy Vunipola in the pack. In the backs, Gareth Davis, Owen Farrell, Manu Tulangi, Robbie Henshaw. On the wings, Johnny May and Anthony Watson. And at fullback, we are looking at Liam Williams.
Strong.
So, Sam, again, a little bit of a plug here. Talk about your NHS Crossbar Challenge and tell the people at home how they can get involved.
Yes, we mentioned it in the last podcast if you guys managed to catch that. But I hope everyone's safe and staying busy in isolation. But if you can, we've set up a little bit of a NHS Crossbar Challenge. myself and my pal at Bedford. Basically, if you can get out, or if you find a crossbar, any ball, any bar in the garden, or whether that be at the park, and for every attempt you take, again trying to get the crossbar, you donate to our fundraising page for the NHS associative charities. Good bit of fun. We've had a load of people do it. We're just over £600 now. We've had a few big dogs. Callum Brady's had a go. Freddie Burns has promised me he's going to give it a go as well. So that should be
He's giving you a promise. Yeah, you're going to hold that.
Yeah, should be quite fun. So so have a go and donate to the page, and send all your attempts in and your crossbars, and we'll repost the best ones.
So yeah, if every attempt at your crossbar, you donate £1, basically like that. There'll be a link, a GoFundMe link in the bio over here. If you hashtag us on Instagram or Twitter at nhscrossbarchallenge and tag Ruck Off Rugby in it as well, we will post the best ones to this video next week as well. Yeah, so far raised over £500 for some really, really good causes in these really challenging times. Obviously, again, there's a lot of spare time at the minute. Sam, what have you been reading? What sports stuff have you been looking at over this last few weeks?
Yeah, so we thought at the end of each podcast, we'll give a bit of a book of the week, or series, or film, or documentary, or something. I think for the Lions one, if you haven't catched any of the Lions documentaries, you should go and watch them. Some great stories and good videos, and it documents all the tours really well. They've done a documentary each time they've been on tour. But my book recommendation for this week is Sam Warburton's autobiography. It's called Openside. Really good read. I imagine you can get it on Amazon and delivered for people staying at home in isolation. But some really honest and inspiring stories in that book. A lot of stories about coming back from injuries and how he dealt with them, and how big a psychologist was in his career, and as a captain for Wales. And some really good leadership lessons. Then each chapter he sort of gives a little bit of a summary. So a real good read, especially for some of the younger listeners out there. Really inspiring story, and one I definitely recommend to everybody.
That's great, guys. Thanks. That's good. Wrap up the video right now. Please like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Obviously, you can find us on Spotify and iTunes. Podcast at Ruck Off Rugby. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at MarkMoss1996.
And myself at Sam Leeming 10 on all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok as well. Got a few crossbar videos on there.
Don't forget the old TikTok.
Yeah. Got a few views on there. So if you head on there, and you can have a look at some of the crossbar and stuff I've been doing to keep busy.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers.